internet, my name is Ash, and welcome to a thing. I think everyone has a childhood best friend, and by childhood I'm referring to the time before you were, say, 12 or 11. I'm talking about the time when everybody just had the confidence of Elon Musk could walk up to anybody on the playground and just say, hey, what's your favorite color? And make a friend just like that. What happened to us? And so, of course, I am no exception. I have a childhood best friend who I still talk with semi-regularly. Look, it's not my fault if I don't really want to hang out with you anymore because you spend half of your waking existence reading yaoi. If you're watching this right now, by the way, I am sorry for what I am about to do. For some reason, my childhood best friend and I always wanted to write things together. In fact, a lot of the ideas we had warrant an entirely separate video unto itself, but let's not talk about that right now. Basically, what would happen is I just get completely obsessed with a certain topic, and then I'd explain it to her. We brainstorm ideas and titles together. She does the cover art. I do maybe 5 to 40, maybe 50 pages of draft for it, and then we lose all interest and move on. This pattern is mostly of recent development. We've had about 5 cycles of this in the last 2 years, I want to say. But the story I'm about to tell you right now is basically the origin story of this pattern that we've created. Makeup might be deceiving, but trust me, I literally only ever look like this when I'm recording a YouTube video. Because most of my childhood so far has just been one tomboy phase after another, except this one gap between 2nd and 3rd grade. I cannot believe I'm about to talk about this on YouTube, where nothing is ever truly deleted. What am I doing with my life? But dear internet, my big confession is that up until maybe season 5 or season 6 aired, I was a huge fan of My Little Pony. Don't judge me, I'm only human! Also, I was 8 years old. I probably should have led with that. You see, TV shows have always given me ideas, usually for stories, but sometimes for poetry, other times even for YouTube videos. But also, and I'm probably gonna talk about this in a future video, but there was a time in which I took a writing class for some reason and wrote an entire 7-page story, which was essentially a knockoff of Sword Art on fucking Line, in which all of the main characters' guildmates die for no fucking reason, just one at a time. And that was 25 episodes of anime that I saw 2 or 3 at a time every weekend with my friend on her TV in her living room. So imagine the amount of shenanigans that arised from 4 whole ass seasons of My Little Pony. Okay, backstory. My friend and I were really into the whole tomboy thing. I think there was another friend of ours that introduced the word to us, and we wore it like a badge of honor. We'd introduce ourselves as tomboys. It was integral to our personalities, especially as 7 to 8 to 9-year-olds. I had a really hard time figuring out why this was weird to me, but I think tomboy is kind of a passive term. You use it to refer to somebody who's not there. I mean, I'm sure that historically it probably used to be an insult in some way or another. In fact, we were so into the whole tomboy thing that when I found out that she had My Little Pony dolls, I clowned on her like there was no tomorrow. Seriously, I mean, I'm sure that our families knew that we were playing with My Little Pony dolls, but we would always hide them. Whenever one of her brothers or her dad or my mom walked into the room, we'd always shove them into a corner and pretend we were talking about video games. It feels weird talking about this on the internet because honestly, My Little Pony was our own little secret. It was the one thing where we were like normal little 2nd graders just playing pretend with dolls. Well, normal is an interesting word, and you'll see in a little bit. I actually found the models for the toys that we had, which reminds me, by the way, my friend's mom gave away the dolls to charity while we were still 9. How? How do you rip dolls away from 2 9-year-olds just to give it to some kid that can barely afford to eat? Come on, dude, stop being such a good person? Or actually, what is the philosophy of taking My Little Pony dolls away from little children to other little children who also happen to be orphans? Post your answers to this moral dilemma in the comment section. But no, we're getting carried away. Moving on! I played as this doll. Her name was Sam. It was short for Samantha, but nobody ever called her Samantha. And my friend played as this. Tori, short for Victoria, but you get the point. And you'd think that it's just kids messing around with dolls, not really worrying about what came before or what comes after. Just messing around, making random scenes up. Oh no, internet. Oh no. You see, what originated as two kids just pretending to be the popular girls in high school who bullied a girl named Tina pretty close to suicide. Oh my god. I remember very vividly that we did a couple scenes when we were 8 in which she actually attempted. Yeah! I was a mentally disturbed 8-year-old. And this whole thing just turned into a multi-year fiasco? Escapade? Episodic? Epic? I don't know. And when I use those words, I mean it. Before we even got the dolls out, we had entire papers describing character relationships, character development, plot lines, story arcs that we named. Plot consistency, logical consistency, action, pacing. Keep in mind, we are talking about 10-year-olds at the latest. At a certain point, we started describing it as the canon. I assume that, let's not kid ourselves, the like 4 or 5 of you that are still watching want to know all the juicy and questionably disturbing details. Oh boy. By the way, to the friend that I did all this with, I know you watch at least some of my videos, so, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. The first arc I believe we named High School Setup Arc. We didn't have a dollhouse yet, so we just used one of these as kind of like the place setting, if you will. Let's face it, every 9-year-old girl had one of those. And so we'd pretend that the drawers on this thing were our beds. I would sleep on top, she in the middle, and then there was this girl called Tina that we lived in who would always have to be at the bottom. And we made a really big deal about her being at the bottom and how the bottom was smaller and smelly and it had all kinds of sharp glass or something like that in it. Yeah. Like I said, telling. And that's not even the worst of it. We'd go snooping around this tiny freaking 4 square feet of space that she had to sleep in. It was a major plot point that the main characters, the good guys of this story, stole her diary, read that she had a crush on this guy called Jackson, apparently, but he was too popular and too unattainable for her, so that she would try to go for his brother Ethan instead. This is the part where the fact that we were 9 years old really starts to show. And after that, we, trashed the diary and then ended up taking those guys for ourselves because the mind of a 9-year-old, apparently. I remember we always had really dumb sex jokes whenever we had those 2 characters around. And one time, I remember her dad walking into the room pretending that the ponies were fucking. I just said the phrase, pretending that the ponies were fucking, out loud, on the internet, for all to see. What is wrong with me? We had it so that I would voice Sam and Ethan, and then she would voice Tori and Jackson, who, by the way, was actually the model for Rainbow Dash, because even we believe that Rainbow Dash was a boy. Come on, whatever the company is that runs My Little Pony, Rainbow Dash is trans represented. That came out of nowhere. Or at the very least make her a lesbian, please. And all of that, going from freshman to senior year of high school, was just the beginning. No, we had a college arc, we had a job hunting arc, we even had children at some point get involved. Altogether, the thing very quickly evolved into a 40-page screenplay. But we'll get to the plot of said screenplay later. For now, in my notes it says to talk about pregnancy juice. Oh god, even saying those words out loud feels disgusting. I promise this is not a joke. I did not come up with this after the fact. This was created in the mind of 2 8 or 9-year-olds in the pinkest room in existence in some suburb in Hawaii, possibly expressing some kind of sexual trauma through play. I don't know whether there was any trauma. I don't think there's any kind of repressed trauma, but dear God, it looks like there was. I'm pretty sure expressing trauma through play is like one of the key signs of childhood PTSD. Isn't that what the main plot of Deltarune is? Most of it has been lost to time because we stopped doing this like 4 years ago, so I don't remember much, but one key detail that I do remember for some reason is that the entire world was shrouded in an endless night, and that was somehow a good thing? How does agriculture happen? How do circadian rhythms work with that kind of thing? Do ponies need vitamin D because, they're all gonna die? The early signs of the emo phase. We should have known. The My Chemical Romance fandom alone is gonna kill me, aren't they? Okay, we're getting off topic here. You probably want to know what was up with the whole pregnancy juice thing. Unlike most kids our age, we knew where babies came from since we were like 6, which, oh my god, don't let a child learn at age 6. It fucks you up so bad. We had this toy bottle thing. It kind of looked like what's on screen right now, except it had some kind of green shit in it, so it wasn't really water and we couldn't use it that way. And my friend and I both had no idea of the existence of any kind of contraceptive, so we just added it into the canon that in order to be pregnant for a pony, you need to drink the juice right before you do the thing. Apparently capitalism dictates the birth rate in this nation. Man, as 8 or 9-year-olds, how much time did we spend talking about sex? This is unreal. We could have just been watching My Little Pony like good little girls, but no, we had to do this. Pregnancy juice. But believe it or not, yes, there were other things involved, like, the military. You see, the reason the world was shrouded in darkness was, well, my friend only had 6 My Little Pony dolls, which was 4 main characters, including Ethan and Jackson, the aforementioned boys, this Pinkie Pie pony, which is this shit for you people that didn't grow up on this crack. She was the one that we bullied near to suicide in the high school arc, by the way, so, you can tell what our opinions of this character are. And Nightmare Moon, this motherfucker who has the most imaginative name you can basically ever think of. She was the queen of the land who banished her sister, I think her name was, like, Celestia, to go live inside of the sun for all of eternity. For those that watched My Little Pony growing up, you know where this came from. You know what? Looking back, whenever we discussed the government of this world, it was very clear that it was basically an Orwellian dystopia, literally shrouded in an everlasting night, and yet we had still somehow twisted our brains into believing that this was a good thing. Like, seriously, all 4 main characters, one of whom was the most stupid individual alive, became head generals in a big war against literal yak people because the queen was their aunt, and also somehow British. I don't know why that's relevant, I just have a very strong affinity for accents. That was pretty much the entire definition of nepotism. Like, that should be illegal within most militaries. And this wasn't like kids playing war either. Like, one of the main characters literally had a wing cut off and permanent PTSD from a battle in which 50,000 ponies died. Children's play! Fun! Oh, and you remember how I said that Nightmare Moon sealed her sister away in the sun? Well, apparently that sister was the pony embodiment of sunlight, which is also somehow evil? Like I said, the signs of the emo phase were there. We just didn't listen. I sound like a former crack addict. Jesus, what's wrong with me? Apparently, without sunlight, the sister fucking dies in our universe, not in the actual show made for literal 8-year-olds. And like the totally normal and not at all mentally unstable 9-year-olds that we were, we came up with the completely logical plot point of the all-knowing queen of the world to lasso the sun, put it into a purse made entirely out of moonlight, capture her sister, put her in a dungeon, and give her just enough sunlight to stay alive, while momentarily ripping it away to bring her as close to withering away as possible, only to bring it back just so she can live to suffer another day. And believe it or not, that wasn't even the end of this thing. We did not stop to question ourselves even once during this whole war arc. Nope, apparently after the war, the main characters ended up having children. That whole side of things actually wasn't that interesting, even though it was very, very meticulously detailed because we were a little bit older, so we just fleshed things out a little bit more. But what is absolutely hilarious, do you remember this girl, Tina, our high school bullying victim? Oh my god, I hope that's not gonna be true in real life. Apparently in the canon, she drops out, ends up moving to a city called Manhattan. Manhattan. That's actually a real thing in the My Little Pony lore, like Baltimore, Las Pegasus, and Canterlot. So the high school bullying victim ends up moving to basically what is New York City, working at this really sketchy place because they're the only people that are gonna take her because she doesn't have a high school diploma, because she literally had to drop out because she was getting bullied so bad. On her way to work one day, ended up going to an alleyway and literally getting gang raped. I'm not kidding. In the minds of 9 to 10-year-olds, there is a universe universe in which Pinkie Pie gets gang raped in an alleyway in New York City. Not only that, she ended up having a child whom she abandoned on the street. And not in the wrap up a baby and just leave it at a doorstep in front of a kind family kind of thing. No, she raised the kid until she was about 5 years old, enrolled her into a school, and then just never picked her up from school. What was happening in my brain at this time? I was 10 years old. What prompted this? I don't know. But after all of this blatant nepotism within the military, physical and psychological torture to the strongest extent that absolutely destroys the human, pony psyche, main characters that almost bullied a kid into suicide, said kid actually getting raped, death in wartime, injuries in wartime, PTSD. After all of that, what made us leave this? I would call it a wonderful world, but let's just call it a world. Remember that abandoned kid that I mentioned? Well, it turns out that the abandoned kid ended up going to the same school as the kids of the main characters. Don't ask how we got here from high school. Let's just say that the pregnancy juice worked, I guess. The short answer for why it ended is that we grew the fuck up, realized that we were completely messed up in the brain, and made a vow never to tell anybody that this ever happened. A vow that I have now broken. I'm sorry. Look, it's been enough time that we can clown on our past selves with everybody. Friend that's name I'm not gonna say for protection. Don't ask why I was weird when I was 9, as the last maybe 15 or so minutes of this video have shown you. Even in the brains that could come up with all sorts of crazy shit that happened, the one thing that put an end to this insanity, that put an end to that creative train, that made it impossible for us to come up with anything that would actually entertain us, was the monotony of human existence that comes after the youth is all disappeared. My god. Oh, and I wish I could say that that was all, but no. Remember what I said about that 40-page script? I'm not gonna post it on the internet for obvious reasons. Just know that it exists and it is terrible, but you can also tell that it was written by 9-year-old girls. As I write more short stories, I've slowly started to realize a couple things, and that's that if you're writing from a different human being's perspective, there are just little things that you're completely incapable of understanding. For example, I'm currently writing a short story that is, to some extent, from the perspective of a 23-year-old man with a beard, and so there's this whole thing about depression after the loss of a loved one, and he's trying to trim the beard, and I'm like, oh yeah, how do you trim beards? Like, it's this really minute detail, and yet I still have to do research on this kind of thing because I genuinely do not know, and why would I know? All this to say, I was a child, my friend was a child, we are still children, we don't know how people behave in club settings, we don't understand the concept of romance as 11-year-olds, we don't understand that concept now because we're 14, and as we come to understand the things that we tried to write about and so spectacularly failed, we outgrew My Little Pony years and years ago. If you enjoyed my slow descent into insanity and the thing that will definitely get me blocked on all social medias from my childhood best friend, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If this is the kind of content that you like, please do so. Just proceed with caution, I guess. And if you thought it was funny at all, and if you wanna spread my channel around to other people, because believe me, there are better videos on this channel, then consider sharing with some of your friends, because smaller channels are really never gonna be picked up by the YouTube algorithm that well. But anyway, until next time, this is PB Ash, signing off. Pregnancy juice. What even is that?